tip 6 is to don't sell the don't sell the product, sell the conversation. At every step of the sales process and every conversation, you have two goals. Your ultimate goal is to sell the product. You're a salesperson, you're a business owner. This is indisputable. And you probably think about your ultimate goal every day. And you're thinking about your ultimate goal in every time you talk to a prospect. But the reality is that at every point, you have an immediate goal as well. Your immediate goal is to advance the prospect to the next stage of your sales process. Now, there are some times where the next stage of your sales process is a formal close and purchase. For example, you might have a one-call close type of product. In that case, if you're on your one call, then your ultimate goal and your immediate goal are kind of the same thing. But in most cases, especially when you're doing inside sales and phone prospecting, your immediate goal is not going to be selling the product, especially on the more difficult calls, like when you're first calling someone for the first time. So if you look here on this slide, there's these three stages, and so you kind of have the initial contact. The initial contact could be a cold call, it could be an email as well. So what I think people often fall into is, yes, they know that, okay, I'm trying to set appointments, but they fall into the trap of always sort of leaning towards trying to build enough interest so the prospect wants to buy. If you kind of go back to that email example that I gave you, you could argue that that person wrote that email really focusing on the ultimate goal, talking about, that it's fast and inexpensive, talking about really scheduling some time. He probably worded it okay. Maybe he said schedule some time to see how we can help you, but really, he was trying to close the sale, or at least he was trying to set an appointment, but he's really trying to close the sale. Let me give you a better example. I get emails all the time for, let's say, someone selling payroll services. Well, I do use a payroll provider, and there are times where I may want to look at making a change with something like that. I often get an email with someone saying, are you looking to switch payroll providers? And that's the email. So what they're doing is they're trying to close the sale in that email, or they could do it similarly on a phone call. And the reality is that they're skipping ahead to their ultimate goal. And the odds of them catching me at the particular time where I'm looking to buy are fairly low. So they stand to improve their results by shifting from the ultimate goal of selling the product and focusing more on the immediate goal, which is typically to establish the conversation. So, and that could be like in the diagram here, the second step would be the what you're trying to close, which in this case it's a conversation, could be an appointment or a meeting. So that should be the focus. Now I want to show you something that's really powerful on this. An example of how powerful this is that when you're phone prospecting, especially working in inside sales, you're going to get objections like, I'm not interested, we don't have any budget, we can't change anything right now, right? Those are good objections when you're going for your ultimate goal of closing the sale. If they don't have budget to spend, and that's a legitimate reason for them not to buy your product. But if you're focused on the goal of having a conversation, the fact that they don't have money to spend is not a valid objection. And you can even reply to them explaining that. Like, I've gotten that objection. Well, we don't have any budget to spend. Hey, you know what? Hey, listen, I understand. But listen, and I'm not saying that we would come out and put together a proposal or spend a lot of our time or your time, keeping in mind that you don't have budget to spend. But we're simply wanting to have a conversation with you guys to learn a little bit more about you, share a little bit of information about us. That way, when your budget does open back up, let's say next year, or when you're doing your budget planning later in this year for next year, you can know who we are and how we can help. And so for us to come out and spend 20 to 30 minutes with you, knowing that you don't have any budget, that would be productive for us. And we would be cautious not to take any more of your time than that. And then we can determine later at what pace to continue our conversation. So just showing you that when you're focusing on the right goal, which is the immediate goal, you can improve your ability to deal with objections.